Hello and welcome. My name is Christina from empoweredcreator.com. I am a mindset and conscious manifesting teacher and coach, and this is my YouTube channel. Here, I talk about all things law of assumption, mindset, conscious manifesting, the quantum universe, and a lot more. And my goal is to simplify everything. So if you guys like this content and would like to see more of it, I would love it if you would subscribe to this channel, like this video, comment below, share it, and just stick around. Also, if you need any help with your specific situation, I offer one-on-one coaching, email coaching, small group coaching, as well as custom subliminals for whatever you might need help with. So if you're interested in any of these services, click on the link below in the description box and it's going to take you to my website. With all that being said, let's dive into today's video. Today we're going to talk about revision, what it means to revise a past situation, a past event, what the goal is out of revision, and also I'm going to give a few specific things, a few specific techniques that you can do to actually revise whatever unfavorable past event or circumstance you're looking to revise. So let's start with the definition of revision. Revision is quite simply going back into a past memory, a past event, a circumstance, something that you don't like, that you want to change, something that is unfavorable to you, something that didn't go quite the way you hoped it was going to go, or maybe something that's still causing you pain or hurt or anger or resentment, something that basically is still triggering you that happened in the past, or that's a circumstance that's still persisting in your 3D reality, and changing that event in imagination and changing the way you feel about that event with a view to the external world actually reflecting that change back to you one way or another. And I'm going to get into that in a second. So before I start talking about specific techniques and how you can actually do revision and give you some different options, I want to make one thing clear. I want all of us to be very clear on one thing, and that is what the goal of revision is. So the goal of revision is not to actually change the world outside of you. The number one goal of revision is to change how you feel about that circumstance, about that past event, that past memory, that thing that is still triggering you and hurting you. Your number one goal with doing revision is to change how you feel, how you think, what you believe about it, and to stop feeling triggered, to stop feeling hurt or angry or in pain or like a victim of circumstances or feel resentment or whatever. Your goal with revising the situation is for you to feel better and less triggered, or ideally no longer triggered at all. So with that being said, and now that we're clear on what the goal of revision is, let's get into some specific practices that we can do, because there are actually several ways in which you can do revision. There's not only just one way, and they all work. They can all work for the same person in different circumstances, or maybe one technique works better for one person over another. So I'm going to cover a few of them here. So the first revision technique, it's actually Neville's way. And what Neville said about revision, he was actually a big advocate of revision. He was teaching people to take a few minutes at the end of their day, every day, and to actually revise whatever events during the day didn't go as planned or didn't go very well, or things that they hoped would have gone differently, maybe an argument, maybe a misunderstanding, maybe they received some news that they didn't like. He told them to just revise their day before bed. Every night. Now, you don't have to do that, although you can if you want to, but it is what Neville used to tell his students and what he used to teach. And what his method was literally go back in imagination, imagine what happened that you want to change, whatever that past event is and however back in the past it goes, whatever the circumstance, whatever the situation, whatever the interaction, whatever the news you got, go back in imagination and reimagine it the way that you wanted for it to have gone, to have occurred. So for example, let's say you got an email with some news that you didn't like. In Neville's way, you go back in imagination and you reimagine that email saying what you actually wanted to say, what you would have wanted it to say. Better news, or change part of it, or whatever it is. That's just one example. So yeah, Neville's way is literally go back in imagination, reimagine what happened, and reimagine it in a different way, in the way that you want it to have happened. Now, let me say here one thing. Neville was really, really a big advocate for visualizing, and that's great. If you're a visual person, that's fantastic. Do that. You can visualize the situation. You can visualize whatever it is that happened, whatever it is that it transpired. But don't feel like you only have to do it through visualization. There are many ways in which to do revision, and it all depends on how it resonates with you personally. So if you're a person who prefers to write, you can actually script the alternative story. If you're a person who prefers to imagine or use affirmations or inner conversations, then you can do an inner conversation, or you can do it with affirmations or your thoughts. Just whenever it pops up in your thoughts, you can say something else happened instead, or you can say it never happened. I do that a lot, actually. No, that never happened. No, I have no memory of it. It's not for everyone, but if that works for you, do it. Why not? Or yeah, you can use an affirmation for it, or you can construct an inner conversation where you are telling yourself or someone else what happened in the way in which that you hope for it to have happened, in the way that you would have preferred it to have happened. Whatever resonates with you, that's what's good for you. That's what's natural for you, and that's what you should go for. Now, there is no limit as to how many times you have to do the revision for it to work within you, to actually convince yourself that the event happened a different way. You repeat it, I say, you repeat it as many times as you have to, over however long you have to, until your mind starts feeling it more natural, and until your mind starts believing it, essentially, and getting more convinced that this is how it happened. So don't limit yourself. If you only have to do it once, great, because sometimes you only have to do it once and it works within you first, and then that's fine. But if you feel like you keep getting triggered, and if you feel like you have to do it over and over and over again, then just do it over and over and over again. And if it takes a few days, or even if it takes a few weeks, just keep doing it. Every time the memory or the circumstance pops into your head, just give your head a different story, or reread what you have written if you scripted it, or visualize whatever image, whatever scene you have in your head about the revision. Second revision technique is you don't change what actually happened, because I know a lot of people find it very hard to convince themselves, but you can actually give a different meaning to what happened, because the reason why we get triggered by circumstances, by whatever happens, by interactions with others, is not the actual event. It's actually the stories that we build around those events in our minds. So you can actually build a different story in your mind about that event and just give it a different meaning, label it differently, see it differently, perceive it differently. So for example, let's say that you're trying to call your specific person and they're not answering your calls, and you're getting worried and you're getting agitated, and you start making scenarios in your head about what happened. Well, you can revise it right there and actually tell yourself that, well, no, they must be sleeping, or they might be very busy with work, or they might be out and they left their phone at home and they're going to call me back as soon as they get home. Things like that. Whatever it is. And third revision technique, also for those who have a hard time imagining a different story to what happened and convincing themselves, is actually practicing forgiveness of the past. So you can actually tell yourself, okay, whatever happened, happened. I am going to forgive myself for pushing out that reality. And I'm also going to forgive the other people involved or whoever is involved or whatever happened for reflecting that back to me. And from now on, I am going to dwell and persist in my new story. Whatever my new story is that I want it to be, I'm going to persist in that. And from now on, I've forgiven the past. I am no longer triggered by the past. I no longer hold resentment towards that person. And from now on, it's a new start, it's a new beginning, and this is how my story is from now on, and I don't care about what happened in the past. The past belongs in the past. I created those things unconsciously. I pushed these things out unconsciously. They reflected that back to me unconsciously as well because they're my mirror, and whatever happened, happened, and we're just looking forward. And our new story now and from now on is this, whatever your new story is that you want it to be. And the fourth revision technique is to actually give a positive meaning to anything that happened. Anything that you encounter in your way, anything that might look like a hurdle or an obstacle, a barrier to what you want, something that's opposing what you want, the opposite story, whatever it is, you can just say, no, this is still a part of the bridge of incidents for me. It is still happening for my benefit. It is still happening for my greatest good. I am still getting my desire. It is still happening so that I can have my desire. Maybe I can't right now see why it's happening. Maybe it's looking like it's something opposing me, but in reality is actually an important bridge for me to get to my desire. Everything is a bridge, no matter if it looks positive or negative, favorable or unfavorable. Everything is part of the bridge that's going to bring me closer to my desire, and that is eventually going to bring me my desire. So all these techniques have one thing in common. You are reprogramming your mind to think differently about the event, about the circumstance, about the interaction, whatever it is that is triggering you. You are reprogramming your mind by doing one or more of these revision techniques so that you are no longer triggered by it. You are no longer hurt. You no longer hold pain, resentment, anger, upset, anxiety, worry, whatever the feelings are that you're experiencing. That is the point and the main goal of the revision. And once you have changed within, once you're no longer triggered by it, I promise you the external world is going to reflect it back to you in some way. And the ways by which it gets reflected can actually vary. Maybe, for example, the people who were involved in the incident no longer remember it the same way. I have absolutely seen that. I've absolutely seen people doing a 180 in their behavior and their attitude after revision. Maybe something happens and the event actually doesn't matter anymore, or somehow it shifts, or somehow it changes after you've done the revision. In any event, if you're no longer triggered by it, the external world is somehow going to reflect it back to you. Maybe you'll find that it doesn't matter anymore. Whatever it was that you thought was an obstacle, it doesn't matter anymore. Maybe it's that. But once you have changed within with a revision, once you yourself are convinced and you're no longer triggered, then that is when the external world is going to show you the results and the outcomes of your revision. And with all that said, I'm going to wrap up this video here. I intend that this has helped you. I very much appreciate having you in this channel and watching this content. I love making this content for you guys, and I look forward to seeing you at the next video. Until then, bye-bye.